Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're looking into, well, a really specific but growing global market.
We are. It's all about ursolic acid. We've got a market research report here, and it gives a pretty detailed picture, numbers, projections, the works.
Right, so our mission, as always, is to unpack this report together. We'll pull out the key data, look at the trends, the insights, basically figure out where this ursolic acid market is now and where the report thinks it's going.
Sounds good. So first things first, what exactly is ursolic acid?
Good question.
Well, the report describes it as a natural compound, technically a pentacyclic triterpenoid. You find it in lots of plants, think apple peels, rosemary, oregano. Quite a few common ones, actually.
Okay, so it's plant-based, but why the fuss? Why a whole market report? What does it do?
That's where it gets interesting. The report points to several key properties. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antibacterial. Even potential anti-cancer activity is mentioned.
Wow, okay.
And something the source highlights is its structural lipophilia.
Lipophilia. Yeah, okay, break that down for us. What does that mean in practice?
It basically means its structure is sort of fat-loving. So it can interact pretty easily with our cell membranes, which are largely made of lipids or fats.
I see.
And that interaction is likely key to how it works, how it gets inside cells, and potentially influences what they do.
Gotcha. So that explains its versatility then. The report mentions a whole bunch of different uses driving demand.
Exactly. In medicine, it's being looked at for chronic illnesses, as a potential therapeutic agent, and just for general health support.
And in cosmetics too, right? I saw notes about improving skin elasticity, maybe reducing wrinkles, UV protection.
Yep, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And then there are dietary supplements for metabolic health, maybe weight management, even potentially muscle growth. It's this adaptability across medicine, cosmetics, and supplements that really fuels the demand.
Okay, let's get to the numbers. How big is this market right now, according to the report?
Okay, so the global ursolic acid market size, it was valued at USD 2,148 million in 2025.
2,148 million. So just over $2.1 billion. And the projection, where's it headed?
It's expected to see some pretty solid growth. The forecast is USD 3,859.5 million by 2033.
Whoa, okay. That's getting close to doubling in what, 8 years?
Pretty much.
What kind of growth rate drives that?
The report pegs the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, at 7.6% for that period, 2025 to 2033.
7.6%. That's definitely a healthy growth rate. Clearly indicates significant expansion ahead.
It certainly does, and the report digs into why. What's driving that growth?
Right, what are the main engines here?
Well, a major one is the huge trend towards organic and natural products. Everyone wants them.
Makes sense, it's plant-derived.
Exactly, it fits right in. Consumers are looking for things perceived as healthier, more natural. And the report links us to specific benefits people associate with it, like maybe influencing fat cells or lean body mass, things that appeal to health-conscious folks, especially in the supplement market.
Okay, natural trend. What else?
Another big driver is the rise in chronic illness, diabetes, heart disease, cancer. Unfortunately, they're increasingly common.
And the connection is?
The connection the report makes is through ursolic acid's properties, the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory stuff we mentioned. These might help protect against conditions linked to oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, which are, underlying factors in many chronic diseases.
Okay.
And as more studies come out suggesting these benefits, companies are putting more money into R&D.
So health trends are key, both the proactive, natural angle and the reactive addressing illness angle. The report also mentions growing disposable incomes, right? Just briefly.
Yeah, it lists that as a factor, too, contributing to market expansion, though it doesn't go to deep detail on that specific point in the excerpts we have.
But it can't be all smooth sailing. What does the report say might hold the market back? Any restraints?
Yes, a couple of key ones. One is phrased interestingly, high expenditures related to ursodeoxycholic acid.
Ursodeoxycholic acid, UDCA. Sounds similar, but different. How does the cost of that hold back the ursolic acid market? Seems a bit indirect.
It does seem indirect, and the report's wording is specific. It says the high cost of UDCA treatments, especially in poorer nations, is a hindrance. It links UDCA's cost to complex extraction from things like, historically, bare bile or plants or synthesis now.
Okay.
And the report states that unless UDCA production gets cheaper or generics become more common, its high price limits its use. Then, it lists this high UDCA cost as a restraint on the ursolic acid market.
So what's the implied link?
Well, the report doesn't explicitly spell it out in fine detail, but you can interpret it a couple of ways. Maybe the high cost of a related complex natural compound like UDCA creates a sort of negative perception, like all these complex natural extracts are expensive or difficult, potentially affecting investment in ursolic acid.
Hmm, possibly. Or maybe funding gets diverted.
That's another angle. Maybe R&D funding or market focus shifts away from natural extracts if a related standard treatment like UDCA is seen as too expensive. The report simply presents it as a restraint. The high cost of UDCA negatively impacts the ursolic acid market dynamics. It's a stated point in the source.
Okay, I think I get the report's logic there, even if it's a bit complex. Cost perception or maybe resource allocation. What's the other restraint?
The other one is more straightforward, variations in raw material quantity.
Ah, supply chain issues.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Since it comes from plants, things like crop yields, weather, seasonality, they can all affect how much raw material is available, potentially causing price swings or shortages.
Makes sense. Okay, shifting gears. What about emerging trends? Where's the momentum?
One trend highlighted is growing awareness about liver diseases.
Liver diseases, like PBC or that fatty liver disease, NAFLD. How does general awareness about those feed into this specific market?
Well, more awareness means earlier diagnosis, more focus on treatment, and just liver health generally. This comes from, online info, health groups, just people being more health aware, especially with obesity rising globally, which ties into NFLD, particularly in places like China and India.
Right.
Now, ursolic acid isn't like the main treatment for PBC or NFLD like UDCA or some newer drugs are, but the increased focus on liver health overall might boost interest in natural compounds or supplements that research suggests could offer some kind of liver support or protection. It just broadens the conversation around liver wellness.
Ah, okay. So it's more of a halo effect from the increased focus on that area. You mentioned newer drugs.
Mm.
The report talks about funding for alternatives to UDCA too, right?
Exactly. It notes that research funding is going up for alternatives, partly because UDCA has drawbacks, side effects, the expense we just talked about.
Okay.
The report even gives examples like recent FDA approvals for new PVC therapies, seladelpar, for instance. Again, these aren't ursolic acid. But this trend of investing in and approving alternatives, especially if they're maybe more affordable, shows it's a dynamic field. It could indirectly create interest or research space for other compounds, like ursolic acid, maybe for complementary roles or less severe issues.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, let's get more granular. How does the report segment the market? By form, for instance.
Yeah, it breaks down mainly into powdered extract and liquid extract. And the dominant one, the one with the biggest share, that's the powdered extract.
Powder, why is that the leader?
Mostly because it's stable, easy to handle, and really adaptable. You can mix powder into almost anything: cosmetics, foods, supplements. Plus, it lasts longer on the shelf, it's cheaper to ship and store, and manufacturers can offer different concentrations. It's just versatile, the workhorse.
But the fastest growing is the liquid extract, the report says. What's driving that growth?
Liquids often get absorbed faster by the body, maybe more completely, so they're getting more popular in pharmaceuticals and some nutraceuticals where that quick action is important.
Ah, bioavailability.
Exactly. Plus, you see more liquid supplements, tinctures, functional drinks on the market now. And for cosmetics, liquids mix easily into things like serums and creams, fitting that trend for, easy-to-use skincare.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about segmenting by product type? Like the concentration, 25% versus 98% ursolic acid.
All right. The report shows the 25% ursolic acid segment holds the largest market share.
And why is that the dominant concentration?
It hits a sweet spot, basically. It works across different industries: meds, cosmetics, nutraceuticals. The report suggests it balances cost and effectiveness well, making it good for mass market stuff. Very common in supplements for general health and those sort of lifestyle-related concerns.
So 25% is the standard everyday choice. But the high purity stuff, the 98% ursolic acid, that's flagged as the fastest growing segment, right?
Yes, it is. That 98% concentration is growing rapidly because it's needed for more specialized high-end uses.
Like what?
Think advanced pharma research, really upscale cosmetics, specialty nutraceuticals, where you need maximum potency and bioavailability. The pharmaceutical industry especially is interested in this pure form for developing targeted treatments, exploring its potential for serious chronic illnesses.
Okay, high purity for high stakes applications. Let's look at the end use. Where is all this ursolic acid actually going? Which sector uses the most?
That would be the nutraceutical segment, holds the biggest share.
No surprise there, really, given the natural product trend and the health benefits we talked about.
Precisely. It's huge in functional foods, dietary supplements, Anything aimed at health and well-being, those anti-inflammatory, antioxidant qualities are highly valued. And with chronic illnesses rising and more focus on preventative health, this segment is just booming.
And the fastest growing end use sector.
Cosmetics.
The beauty industry.
Yep. Ursolic acid has become really popular there. Its anti-aging, skin rejuvenation, anti-inflammatory properties are a big draw. Plus the whole clean beauty and sustainability trend. Natural ingredients like this are gold. And better cosmetic formulas that actually deliver noticeable results are also pushing this growth.
Okay, let's switch to geography. Where in the world is this market biggest right now?
North America. According to the report, it holds the largest chunk, over 37% of the global revenue. Market size there was about $794.76 million in 2025. It's growing too, projected CGR of 6.4%.
Over a third of the market. What makes North America the leader?
Several things. Strong pharma and nutraceutical industries that use it a lot, especially for products targeting those lifestyle health issues, obesity, diabetes, heart health.
Right.
Cosmetics are big too. The anti-aging and skin health angle fits well with the clean beauty demand. Plus, they have solid R&D, and high-purity ursolic acid is readily available, especially in the U.S. The U.S. alone was, what, $627 million in 2025?
Okay, so North America leads currently, but which region is growing fastest?
That would be Asia Pacific.
APAC, okay.
Its current share is smaller, around 24%, maybe $550 million in 2025, but its projected CAGR is the highest globally, 10.4%.
Wow, over 10% annual growth. What's driving that kind of speed in Asia Pacific?
It's really picking up steam in pharma, cosmetics, and nutraceuticals in countries like China, India, Japan. You've got a rapidly expanding middle class there, more disposable income, and a real growing interest in natural organic products.
So similar drivers to elsewhere, but maybe more accelerated?
Seems like it. Functional foods, supplements, anti-aging cosmetics, all booming. And the report specifically calls out India as having a particularly high country CAGR projected at 12.3%.
India at 12.3%, that's impressive. What about other regions? Did the report cover them?
Oh yeah, it gives numbers for others too. Europe has a big share, over 29%, around $622 million in 2025, growing at 6.6%. South America smaller, over 3.8% share, about $81 million, but growing quite fast at 7.9%. Brazil and Argentina mentioned there. The Middle East is around 4%, roughly $85 million, but also growing quickly, 8.1% CAGR, with Turkey and Saudi Arabia highlighted. And then Africa has the smallest share, about 2.2%, $47 million, and the lowest growth rate, 3.8%.
Got it. A truly global picture, but definitely with different speeds.
Right.
What about the companies involved, the competitive landscape?
The report calls it highly competitive. You've got your big global players and smaller regional ones too. It lists names like Vigia Europe, SAS, Sabinsa Corporation, King Herbs Limited, BASF, SE, among others.
Standard mix of players. Any recent industry news or moves mentioned that caught your eye?
Yeah, a couple of things noted. That FDA approval for Acurvo, the Ipsen drug for PBC, in June 2024. Not ursolic acid, but relevant to that liver health trend and the search for alternatives we discussed.
Right, contact.
And also a merger back in April 2022, Pharmazel, Pharmabios, and Novacep forming Explora. That created a bigger player in active pharmaceutical ingredients, which could definitely influence the supply side for compounds like ursolic acid.
Okay. And beyond the market data, the report touches on broader stuff too, right? Qualitative factors.
It does. It mentions things like analyzing the impact of trade issues, specifically mentioning Trump's tariff war, doing pestle analysis, looking at Porter's 5 forces for industry structure, and even ESG factors.
So looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. The source excerpts didn't detail those analyses, but their inclusion shows the report tries to put the numbers in a wider strategic context. It's not just about the compound, it's about the whole environment.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up then. Based on this deep dive into the report, what are the absolute key takeaways for the ursolic acid market?
Well, definitely the significant growth expected, that 7.6% CAGR through 2033 is the headline number. And in terms of use, nutraceuticals is clearly the dominant sector right now.
Right, driven by health and wellness. And product-wise, that 25% concentration is the standard, the big volume seller.
Correct. But the real action, the rapid growth areas to watch, that's the liquid extract form.
The high purity, 98% concentration.
The cosmetic sector as an end use.
And geographically, Asia-Pacific leading the growth chart.
Exactly. Those are the hot spots according to this report.
So overall, this dive gives us a pretty clear view of a market on the rise, really riding these big waves of natural health, preventative wellness, and also addressing chronic diseases. It's fascinating how one plant compound fits into so many different growing industries.
It really is. It shows how something from nature becomes this commodity shaped by everything from consumer trends and beauty and wellness to serious pharma research and even global trade politics.
So here's something to think about as we finish. How is this growing global focus on natural health solutions, both for staying well and dealing with illness, really shaping demand for compounds like ursolic acid? And look how differently that demand plays out across regions and industries, high-tech pharma versus everyday face cream. What might that tell us about where innovation in health and wellness is actually heading next?